The fresco of the Ascension of Christ. In the western half dome, there is a fresco of the Ascension which has been moved to the new museum in the monastery, where it has been re-erected at the top of the wall in November 2004. This scene used to be in the second choir of the church and was supported by metal struts and strengthened by aluminium beams. The fresco in this dome depicts the Ascension of Jesus Christ and contains two sections. The upper part contains the Ascension of Christ within a large radiant halo, and the lower part shows St. Mary in the middle, surrounded by the 12 disciples, standing next to each other with their heads raised, watching the Ascension of Jesus Christ. The upper section shows Christ sitting on the throne inside a radiant halo, which has a dark blue background depicting heaven. There are two circles, one on the left representing the fiery sun and one on the right representing the moon. The halo represents a heavenly vehicle carrying Christ in three graduated colourful steps of white, green and blue. It is carried by two flying angels with wings of red and green, and wearing the same clothes, a pink tunic and coats the colour of pearls. Today, this scene is unclear, because after restoration we can only see one angel. In this scene of Jesus Christ, his head is surrounded by a luminous aura, inside of which is a cross, and he wears a light blue tunic over a dark pink robe. His face appears to have a serious expression. His eyes are outlined with white highlights, and he has bare feet. In his left hand it is said that he held a book, and in his right hand he held a model of the globe above a cross. Above the earth there was an image of an eagle, which no longer exists, and there may also have been an image of the heads of three animals, which were a pictorial representation of the book of Revelation, chapter 4, verses 6, 7 and 8. After the restoration of this scene, none of those images remained. In the lower section of this fresco, the Virgin Mary stands in the middle, surrounded by the 12 disciples, whose names are written above their heads in Syriac. From right to left, they are Matthias, Simon the Zealot, Thaddeus, James the son of Alphaeus, Matthew the tax collector, Andrew, Mary, Mother of God, Simon Peter, John, James the son of Zebedee, Philip, Bartholomew, and finally Thomas. These are arranged according to the Gospel of our teacher Matthew in chapter 10, verses 2, 3 and 4. In addition to the Gospel list, two other people have been added. The Blessed Virgin Mary and Matthias has been added as an alternative to Judas Iscariot. The Virgin Mary stands wearing a long magenta robe and a light blue tunic, and there is an aura around her head. Her hands are raised in prayer and supplication, and her eyes, looking out to the viewer, are unconcerned by what is happening above her. Each of the 12 disciples has a luminous aura around their heads, black hair and beards, with the exception of Simon Peter and Andrew, who have white beards, and Andrew a bald head. Peter is represented as an elderly man wearing a green robe, a red tunic with cuffs decorated in red. Next we find John, depicted as a young man with reddish-black hair and wearing a red robe and a pink tunic. Then we find James, the son of Zebedee, wearing a dark red tunic and a grey-blue robe. His right hand is raised with his finger pointing to heaven. Next is Philip, who wears a green-grey tunic and a red robe. His long hair falls to his shoulders, and he looks at Thomas, whose arm he holds with his right hand, and his open left hand is raised to heaven. On the other side, the disciples are dressed in white robes with cloaks of blue, red, and white. At the end of the row, two of the disciples are talking to each other. This scene is from the same era as the frescoes in the other half domes of the first choir, and date to the 13th century AD.